and do what they gotta do. Flint would be a whole better place though, you feel me? I love Flint. This is where I'm from. My mama and everybody here, you feel me? Listen to the
buy a bunch of pills and start a pharmacy without licensing. So that was just a quick thing I wanted to say about that. But back onto infrastructure, I know that we have a lot of infrastructure that's really old and outdated and needs to be replaced. I know that we also have a lot of neighborhoods that are mostly abandoned. Blocks that at one point had 20, 30 homes on them, and now there's 1 or 2 or 3 of those homes occupied. I think that that leaves a larger burden on the rest of us to pay for that infrastructure that exists. And what plans or what thoughts are there within the city right now on removing some of those neighborhoods? I know it's a tough issue for a lot of people. There's some families that have had houses there for a long time, but maybe allow them to have wells, just run power lines there. If we have full streets that have pipes underneath them and sewer lines underneath them that need to be plowed and that need to be paved that we can't afford, maybe we can't afford those streets. It's a tough decision, but it might be a decision that we might at least need to open up the dialogue on. The other infrastructure question I wanted to bring up was I see the Flint River as an amazing resource. The world is moving out of the industrial age and into a new age, whatever we want to call it. In this new age, we're realizing that sustainability is a very important issue, and how we produce our power is a very important issue. With all the dams on the Flint River that need to be rebuilt, maybe we should look into building those dams to generate hydroelectric power. Maybe it could be something like Traverse City, I believe, if I'm right. I might be wrong on this, but I think they have like a city-owned power company or something. I know there are municipalities that do. Maybe we could have a city-owned power company that generates revenue there. Just want to know
what the thoughts. First one again, because got lost. What was your first question?
The first one, well, I mentioned about the licensing.
Oh yeah, licensing. I think that's a good suggestion, and that's something we'll take note of and take a look at. That's a good one. On the river being an asset, absolutely. We believe it's an asset too. We just got to figure out how to best use it.
Okay, and what about neighborhoods? Is it time to open up that dialogue about removing neighborhoods? Or?
What I would say there is the mayor put together a team, I think, in 2010 to go after a HUD grant. I think it was about $1.5 million to redo our master plan for the city. And I think that's where we want to focus on land use in the community. But I think, as he has said repeatedly, I think we need to do that in a way that takes everybody's concerns into any final decisions we make. And but could there be some ways that we could have a new land use plan as part of the master planning process, and still make sure the folks that are living in those blocks where there might be one house left, or a census tract, maybe there's only 34 houses in it. I think as long as that's part of a master planning process, then I think we can address those kinds of concerns and yet still make some change. And I think that's what the mayor has really intended with the master planning process.
I have a question here. This is sort of a slow thing question. I know you have a daunting task with the unfunded liability, law enforcement problems, the job problem, education problem. You're here for a limited period of time, and what I'd like to know is, do you have in your recommendation, are you going to have some changes in incentives that are going to be directed towards our politicians, incentives that are directed towards possible businesses coming to the community, incentives for the citizenry that is here? I want to know if this is going to be a quick fix. Is this going to be a short thing, or is this going to be a long thing? Have you thought about, if you drill down, what are the incentives that you have to change? Because obviously the incentives that we've had in the past have created this problem. Thank you.
Okay, I guess the best way I can focus on incentives is around economic development. And so if there are incentives that we can tap into from the state level, tax credits, that kind of thing, so that we can have more development in this community, bring more jobs in, those types of incentives I think are important and we'll continue to go after. And we are trying to work closely with the Snyder administration to focus on economic development opportunities, say around our brownfield redevelopment, Buick City, Delphi, Chevy in the Hole, and that's kind of the best example I can give of incentives working for urban revitalization. On incentivizing citizens, I'd have to think about that a bit, but we'd certainly be open to any suggestions folks might have.
Good evening. I know that as part of your charge, you've obviously been appointed so that you can help put Flint's financial house in order. And I know that a lot of the things that we've heard about have to do with measures to cut costs or to examine possible disposal of assets and other sorts of things that are entirely unique to Flint's vulnerability to act. But in looking more broadly at the whole trend of emergency managers being appointed at cities throughout Michigan, to me it really indicates that there's a more fundamental issue with how cities in Michigan are funded. Property taxes are not a reliable source anymore for cities. There's a problem there that's beyond Flint. If you look at changes to revenue sharing, if you look at statutory limitations on the ability for cities to raise taxes in other ways, all those things seem to really input on the financial wherewithal that the cities have. And so as you're looking at these things that are internal to Flint, are there any conversations that you're having or are open to having that would kind of unite in common cause with all these other cities that, whether they have emergency managers or not, are really under financial duress because of the structural inadequacies of how cities in Michigan are funded?
Sounds like you need to be in government, doesn't it? Great assessment. Again, one of the things I'd point to is like the shared service pot of revenue that the governor has created. All the more reason we need to look at different ways of doing business, and if we can cooperate with other units of government to deliver services on a broader basis, that'll certainly be one of the things that I will push while I'm here. Now, in terms of tax structure, I think we have the Michigan Municipal League, we have Michigan Association of Counties, Township Association. Could there be some ideas that could come out of there that could help local units of government fund themselves differently? I think so. Some states have, for instance, a local option sales tax that people can vote for in a county or in a region, and then that could raise revenue for services like public safety or infrastructure redevelopment. So I think those are great ideas.
I'm Carol White, born and raised in Flint, Michigan, 1947. 1947, went to Flint St. Mary's, graduated in 1965, moved out when I got married in 68, and came back into town in 2001. And I'm made in Flint, and I'm proud of it.
We have not made any decision to privatize water. We are looking at all the options. If I got into putting everything on the ballot that we need to make decisions on, we would get nowhere, and we don't have much time. So what I can tell you is I will talk about this publicly. I'll communicate through TV, radio, newspaper, and meetings like this to let you know just the kinds of questions we're asking, the answers to those, and then I'll put it before the public and make the best decision I can. Thanks.
I'm worried about the vandalism on foreclosed homes. You know, is there a program or is there something that I don't know about as a citizen pertaining to all these foreclosed houses and these scrap yards, you know, taking this stuff in? Is there something going to be done about it?
Well, again, you're raising a key public safety issue in the community. I think I've asked Chief Locke to put together a plan and working with the state police to improve our public safety presence in the community. It's all the more reason that we need to get a hold of our finances properly, because we cannot hire the number of police officers we need. But I do think this has to be part of a whole plan. I can't solve that problem overnight. I know it's an issue, and it's a critical issue in the community. I think there was a former city councilman who called me, I think it was New Year's Day, and one of his houses had been broken into and they took all the copper out of it, you know. So it's impacting everybody. Yes, it's one of the public safety issues we need to do something about. And as I work with the chief and state police and we put together a plan, hopefully we can begin to knock off some of these issues that are impacting us. We're going to try, I can promise that.
You got a tough job. Just say that. I'm a housing provider of 50 years in the city of Flint. The gentleman just said,
We can't hear you.
closer to the mouth, is that better? Okay. Anyways, Terry Groves, I've been in the real estate business in town for 50 years. And what the gentleman just said, I'm reiterating that. National Guard troops coming to Flint, Michigan. Everybody laughed at me 7 years ago when I suggested this. And now we have a state cable. We still haven't got them. We still haven't got the National Guard here. And for what reason, I don't know. I guess myself, I've lost 2/3 of my net worth because of this vandalism. There hasn't been a felon charge. When about 70% of the metal that goes to these scrap yards is stolen, 70% of the metal going to these. And nothing, there hasn't been a felony charge on anybody. What are we going to do with this? I mean, the same way with the people in jail down here. We're treating them, I guess it costs $20,000, $25,000 a year to keep them, and we got all that vacant property over there. Why don't we set up some tents and put them in it instead of giving them tickets? And we're way out of whack here. This is an emergency. Manager, we need emergency steps. And I basically would like to know, take off the kids.